Is the Hyperion too expensive? The Hyperion is one of the best and most useful items in all of Skyblock, and it's been like this for a couple of years at this point. But is the price that it costs to get one really worth it? If we hit 100k before the start of June, I'm going to be dyeing my hair. Also, make sure to use code MASH in the Hypixel store, and let's get right into it. A little bit over a year ago, I had a series on my channel known as Speedrun to Hyperion. In this series, I basically did what the title said, and I tried to speedrun as fast as I could to Hyperion on a completely new profile. But one thing I noticed after going back and looking at the finale is in the thumbnail, I said that it costed 500 mil. And recently looking at prices, I couldn't imagine a Hyperion going for that much because right now, it's over 5 times that amount. But why is it so expensive? If you look at the price of a handle, which is the main component into creating a Hyperion, you would see that it's only around 700 mil. So why are Hyperions selling for nearly 2.5 bill right now? Well, the reason are scrolls. People tend to forget about how useful scrolls are to the Hyperion. Without scrolls, the Hyperion is kinda useless, cause without all 3 of them, you don't get the Wither Impact ability, which is basically the only reason to use a Hyperion. But it makes sense that people didn't really care about scrolls. At the time, scrolls were nowhere in comparison in price to handles. Everybody was focused on a handle because they could cost around 500 mil, while the price of something like a scroll ranged as low as a few mil. So in some cases, it could be 100 times less than the price of a handle. This price difference lasted pretty long, with scrolls never ever getting even near the price of a handle. And even when it got into the bazaar, while the price did decrease a little, it really didn't change that much and was always pretty cheap. When scrolls were added to the bazaar on August 18th, 2022, or basically a little under a year ago, scrolls like Implosion were around 6 million coins per. Now, if we forward to the present, the price of a scroll like Implosion is 500 mil. And that price is actually lower than it really is. So you might be wondering why I said it's not actually 500 mil. Well, the reason has to do with the bazaar. If you didn't know already, bazaar actually has an item price limit. Most people didn't know this because no item actually hit this limit, because most of the items on bazaar are meant for bulk buying, and usually bulk buying items are pretty cheap. But when scrolls were added, they were in this bulk buy around area because they were only like 7 mil. But now they got to 500 mil and actually reached this limit. If we look at one of these items, like let's say Wither Shield on Bazaar, we can see that the amount of people wanting to buy it for is around 500 mil because that's the cap. But then if we look at the people selling it, there is nobody selling it. There is literally no offers for people to buy from. So you literally cannot buy a Wither Shield if you wanted to. That's how expensive it's gotten. So while I think that it's probably worth around 500 mil, I can't even say so. So I decided to come up with the strategy to actually get the rough idea of how much it's worth. The way I'm going to be calculating this is quite simple. First, I'll take the price of the lowest bin with the Impact Hyperion on the AH. Then after doing this, I'll be having the actual price of the scrolls. Then if we take that price and divide it by 3, that will be the price of each and every scroll. The first thing I noticed when doing this is that there's actually only 4 Hyperions with Wither Impact on the entire AH. So if you don't get those, it's going to be pretty hard to actually buy one. Next, each Hyperion is around 2.5 bill or more. So the price of a Hyperion is pretty expensive. Then when calculating the price without scrolls, it's going to be around 900 mil. If it has some master stars, that's going to bring it up a little, but otherwise it's around 900 mil. So if we subtract that, that gets 1.6 bill for all the scrolls. And that means each scroll is worth 533 million each. If you're watching this and don't already have a Hyperion, I would highly recommend trying to get one soon, because in my humble opinion, I think prices are only gonna get way more expensive. If you go onto trading discords, you can already see plenty of people trying to sell their Wither Scrolls for more than the Bazaar cap. So if this goes on any longer, I could only see them going for even more after that. Now that we've answered the question of why Hyperions are so expensive, the obvious and most logical next question would be, why are scrolls so expensive? And the answer to that is not as simple as it seems. Most people think it's solely due to the inflation, but to be honest, I don't think that's the only reason. After talking to some of my guildmates, we noticed that after the RNG meter was added to the game, the price of scrolls also began to slowly increase. You probably already know how the RNG meter works, but if you didn't, the way that it works is you choose a single item to work towards. Every run, you get closer and closer to the goal. Once you get to the goal, your next run is going to automatically have that item in the chest. But the thing is, if you ever drop that item, it's going to reset the meter, and items that are rarer require more runs to actually drop it. One thing you might have not known about the RNG meter though is that it actually increases the probability that you drop one of the items you set your RNG meter on. So if there's a big item that everybody wants, something like a Necron's handle, and everybody sets the RNG meter to that, it's going to technically increase the drop rate of that for all players because everybody has a higher chance of dropping it due to the RNG meter's effect. You might think that this can't really have that big of an effect on the price of scrolls, but if you look at the difference in price between handles and scrolls and how it's changed over the past year, you'll actually see that it has a pretty big effect. On August 18th, 2022, when scrolls were added to the Bazaar, the price of a scroll was around 6 or 7 mil, while the price of something like a Necron's handle was 900 mil. That means a Necron's handle was over 100 times more expensive. If we now look into the present, the price of a handle is around 840 mil, while the price of a scroll is all the way over 500 mil. This shows how much RNG meter actually affects price, because once everybody put their thing on handle, its price went down. Even though inflation was occurring, the price still went down. And because no one was going for scrolls, its price went skyrocket high. And inflation probably did slightly affect that, but we can already see with handle that the effect of the actual RNG meter is way stronger. So now that we know all the causes, let's get to the final question. Is a Hyperion worth this price? In my opinion, it definitely is, but only if you're using it to its full capabilities. If you want a Hyperion just for doing floor 7, then I don't think it's worth it. While it is the best weapon to do floor 7 if you're a mage, you can use plenty of different things that are also pretty cheap. People tend to forget about the Midas Staff. While it is pretty expensive to get one from the AH, costing around 250 mil for one that has a 50 mil paid and around 350 mil for 100 mil paid, it's still really good for the price, considering right now hypes cost 10 times that price. So you might as well just use that while you want to do floor 7, and then when you can actually afford a full hype, then just sell it off. But one thing I think everyone should know is that the Hyperion is kinda a must need at some point in the game if you ever want to get pretty good. Because while you can get off without ever using one for dungeons and just use the Midas Staff or something else, you're going to end up needing one eventually because its effect is super useful all throughout the game, especially as a healing item. But that's basically all I got for this video, so if you did enjoy, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, or whatever all that stuff is, and I'll see you in the next one. Later!